to the first official episode of Part-Time Okie Pickers Inside the Cellar Studio. I'm Rebecca.
I'm John.
And we are a husband and wife who buy things at garage sales, flea markets, thrift stores, and sells them online for a profit. We primarily sell on eBay. We do have an Etsy store, but it hasn't been active in a couple years because we just opened it for a vintage lot that we had bought, and it was just too much work to keep up with 2 online shops. As our name suggests, we are in Oklahoma and we do this part-time because we both have Monday through Friday jobs. We are going to discuss some of the sales from October and November this video. Since our YouTube channel started in October, we didn't want to go back too far. We're going to go over the highlights because everyone always goes over highlights, but we're also going to discuss some of the lowlights. The sales less than $10 that really don't amount to anything, but it still keeps our store active. In October, we sold a total of 81 items for an average sale price of $51.15. We had a really good October, but some of these highlights will show that. In November, we only sold 51 items for an average sale price of $36.81. Our goal average sale price is always $35. It's just a goal that we've set for ourselves. I don't even know, did you hear that from someone else who does it that way? It just became our goal.
The bigger the better.
For sure. For sure. So we'll start with some of the boring highlights. And I say these are boring because these were just one-off items that we bought that sold for a lot of money instead of us buying a lot and then selling high-end items. We sold Hot Wheels Highway Track. We paid $1 for this tub. It looked like it had parking lots and little restaurant pieces, and we didn't really know exactly what it was, but it was $1, so we went ahead and picked it up. And then when we were doing research, well, John was doing the research, he discovered it was the 90s superhighway Hot Wheels, and it sold for $100. We also sold the Pendleton blanket, which you guys saw us buy on another video for $30, and we sold that for $250. I have all my stickies here, so sorry, I'm trying to get them out of the way so I don't get any confusion going. Now, something that we do when we buy a big lot of items is we set up a spreadsheet and we track gross sales. There's no definite time for us. We just do it until we're happy with the profit that we see. It's just easier to see it all right there for that specific sale for us. So one of our big purchase items was a miscellaneous tub and box of 90s, early 2000 Legos. John found it on Facebook Marketplace. It was extremely difficult dealing with this person because he did not respond. So we weren't even really sure if it was actually someone trying to sell this stuff, because looking at the manuals, it was crazy Lego sets like Legorado and Magisto's Magical Shop, which has since been re-released as a gift with purchase. But we were able to pick that up. We had to drive 45 minutes to go get it. They're not sorted at all, so we've sorted by color, and we have only pulled out 4 sets, and all 4 sets have sold. The 2 highlights, which highlights are going to be anything over $75, is what I would consider to be noteworthy. And then lowlights are anything under $10. We sold Magisto's Magical Shop for $85. And then Fort Legorado for $250. We are currently in the process of building set number 6079. I don't know, it's one of the wood castle hideaway It's taking us a really long time because we just don't really feel like digging through Legos right now. And we realize that it's going to be a great item when we can't source and go to garage sales in the winter. We'll just come to the garage and start digging through Lego sets. We know we have 2 or 3 sets that are $200 to $300 still, and then a lot in the $50 to $100 range. We're just not motivated for it.
In the end, we'll probably make $1,500 to $2,000, but it will take a lot of time and effort and tracking down all these pieces. So we're just going to let it stretch over the winter, like she said, because we can't source when there's snow on the ground or it's 30 degrees outside. People don't typically have garage sales.
Yes. Oh, and I didn't mention, for the gross sales for the Lego, we're up to $433.22. Our goal is always to make 4 times our money, 4 to 5 times our money. So we're actually really happy with that profit right now, which is also playing into why we're not in a hurry to finish out sorting. It can sit in the death pile until we're ready. I don't think they're going to decrease in value at all because they are sought after sets. Let's talk about some lowlights. We can skip and go to some lowlights.
Well, okay. So one of the lowlights that she has here is a Coleman ventilator ball nut, which goes on the top of a lantern that keeps the lid on, keeps it all together. Well, we had bought a lantern, a Coleman 200A. It was in bad shape, so I just took everything apart and sold everything piece by piece. We had already sold everything, but the last item to sell was the ball nut, the thing that holds it all together, and we sold that for $4.60. Somebody needed it out there, probably a replacement, but it did sell. It looks like a low light, but we did sell every other piece on the lantern for quite a bit of profit.
And
I just want to get that one out of the way.
Sometimes that's okay that's how we view lowlights. It's okay if it's a low dollar item, but someone's gonna need it, because that's how we shop too. There are some things that we need, and we need eBay sellers to piece items out so that we can buy it. Another low light item, which you'll probably want to talk about this sale, is a Star Wars Destroyer droid that sold for $8.11.
So we bought a large lot of Lego figures off Facebook. The guy was very particular about the condition of them.
Star Wars figures.
Yeah.
You said Lego.
Star Wars figures. He was very particular about them. He said he worked in the Toys R Us in the back room. The figures had never seen the light of day. He was very particular about keeping them in the cab of his truck when I went through the boxes, so on and so on. It was about 100 to 105 total figures. We've sold 95 of them, and then we did a couple lots and stuff. But one of the low sales was the Destroyer droid, but this is, we're scraping at the very end of the barrel. We paid about $700 total for all the figures. We've sold about 95 of them, and we've sold it for a gross of $3,100 and some change. Some of the figures turned out to be incredibly hard to find, incredibly rare, incredibly one-offs. They were all what I would consider modern. They weren't the 90s, red, green, Power of the Force. These were all early Black Series and ones that came out in the 2003 to 2008 time period. And that's why we have a Star Wars figure that would be on the low sales.
I know. We couldn't go back further than October for the highlight sales because the expensive ones sold.
I mean, some of the
really
expensive
fast.
ones sold for over $100. We had 2 of them that sold for over $100. It's the same figure. They were in different conditions, so I priced them differently. We had a Princess Leia one that sold for over $100. Some of the rare, like new, only released this way figures sold for over $50. We sold quite a bit of them, and they sold very fast. And another highlight of that sale is we had gone to a garage sale earlier in the year and had purchased a Scotty Cameron putter, a camera, some ink, I think, a bunch of different stuff. But in the back of the garage, he had a bunch of boxes. And he was like $5 for all the boxes. And they were really obscure sizes. And one of the sizes turned out to be 10 by 9 by 2 or something to that effect. And that's what we shipped all those Star Wars figures in, because they were expensive and these boxes were really nice and they fit perfect, especially with padding around the side. So always look for useful things at garage sales, not just things to make money.
We always buy shipping supplies because they're always super cheap, because it's usually people who thought they would sell online and they didn't like it.
It's somebody that gave up and they're like, oh, this is too complicated, but they bought all this stuff up front, and then we will gladly take that stuff off their hands.
Yes, we do have our particular sizes of boxes that we like to order, that we always order. So it's always kind of inconvenient when we find those sizes that aren't what we like, but we still buy them because it's cheaper than what we spend.
And it paid off.
Supplies. It does.
It was very, very beneficial.
Yes. So another one, I mean, I don't agree this is a low light sale, but you do, is the t-shirts that we talked about in our other video. We are wearing Ant-Man and the Wasp. We're keeping these two. We're going to wear them to garage sales. So all of them were priced at $5.11. No matter what, we looked a couple up, and some of them, those were the first ones that sold for more, but they were all priced $5.11 plus shipping. So far, we have sold 19 of them. We paid $20 for the whole lot of shirts, and we're at a gross profit of $102.09. Right now, we still have a lot of shirts listed. We did find a lot more that were stained that just weren't worth it, so we just threw them out after washing them, because we don't treat stains. I don't treat stains.
I'm not sure who makes the Loot Crate shirts, like the actual shirt themselves, but they need to get a tape measure. There were some that were, it would say 2XL, but it was 21 inches wide. That's not a 2X. That's maybe a medium, maybe a large at best. It needs to be 26 inches. So there were a bunch that didn't fit actual, modern day human measurements. So we threw a bunch of those off to the side as well, and we're just going to donate those off.
Yeah. We did include measurements. We always include measurements of clothing. So we always have a tape. It's easier just to lie flat and put the tape measure over it so people can...
We use yardsticks.
Yeah, we do.
You can see our pictures. The other reason I list this as a low sale is because every time you hear the cha-ching, you're always excited. You run to your phone and you see a $5.11 t-shirt sale. It's just kind of deflating. So,
I mean, that part
we've done that 19 times. I've got another 80 shirts to go, so I'm not very excited for the next of them. But the other thing is, like, 27 of them have watchers. I'm not really sure what the watchers are waiting for because it's $5.11. We're not going to go much lower than that. Maybe they don't like paying the shipping. Maybe I should have listed them for $10.11 free shipping. I don't really know, but maybe we'll change it in the near future.
But we did have a guy message us last night. He bought a couple and wanted to combine shipping, and we're always happy to combine shipping. We will refund it back once we ship and we know how much it costs. We're happy to do that.
Always.
One of the this is probably the highlight lot of the year that we bought. When we go garage sailing, we go the same route, like every single time. Unless there's a specific garage sale that we're wanting to hit first thing in the morning, we always go the same route because it works for us. We always know where we can find sales that are going to be decent. And there was one Saturday we weren't ready to give up yet, so when we're not ready to call it, we go out to another area where we live, and we chased this sign, and we just pulled up, and it was like a hoarding house situation. It was so overwhelming. They had piles of stuff on tarps in the front yard. They lived on a corner lot, and it was like all around the corner. Tarps laid out with plush, new with tag Disney plush. It was all Disney stuff. totes and totes of clothing.
Bags, trash bags, full of clothing.
It-
They kept bringing them out while we were there. And granted, this was 11:30 noon.
Yes.
It was hot, and then we both just jumped in.
Yeah.
We were there at least an hour digging
Yes.
over and over.
Nothing was priced. So at first I saw the plush, and I know that plush isn't always... I knew it wasn't going to be high dollar items, even though we did have some really good sales from it. And she was like 25 cents for like the small Disney new tag ones. But I remembered we had to hunt for one for my niece a couple years ago for her birthday or Christmas. So I knew, like, kids watch these Disney movies that they don't still make the plush for. So I knew there was a market for it.
And there was a lot of Mickey, Donald, Goofy, Minnie, obviously. There's lots of variations of it. Safari, Western, whatever you can possibly think of. But then there were a lot of plush that were from not obscure movies, but more obscure movies. Fantasia, Meet the Robinsons, ones that aren't still in production that sold really well, sold very quickly, because you can't get them if you go to the Disney store today. They're not going to have, the gold robot from Meet the Robinsons. Most likely they're going to have the 12 variations of Mickey and then Frozen. That's pretty much it.
The golden robot. I think his name was Carl.
Whatever.
But I was immediately, like, put off at that sale. And I even told John, there was a lady walking around with the inbox ice ski slope Mickey.
Mhm.
We sold it a couple years ago, so I knew that's like $100 easy. And I was just so mad that she beat me to it. So it took me, like, he started digging, and it took me, like, walking around multiple times before I was ready to, like, go grab the IKEA bags out of the car and just start bulk buying, because we didn't know how else to do this. And we have a Dodge Durango, so both seats were down. We filled it up with whatever else we had garage sales that day, which I think was actually kind of a lot.
Mm-hmm.
We filled it up, and then they actually had the sale again the next day on a Sunday, which is super rare. We were one of the first ones there.
Yep, I had messaged them on Facebook. I found their post. It took me a long time because they didn't use normal keywords that you would do for a sale or an estate sale or a garage sale or whatever. But I found it and I messaged them and I was like, hey, we were there today. We enjoyed our time digging around. It was kind of fun to just, you never know what you're going to pull, especially out of the clothing. Because I was pulling vintage shirts, but it was like, I would pull out like a vintage Star Trek shirt. Okay, that's cool. And then I would pull out vintage Disney shirts and movie shirts and just all over the place. So I asked if they were bringing out new stuff, and they said, oh, they still had tons of it in the house, especially clothing. They had another 20 to 30 garbage bags, I think, that they were going to be bringing out. So we made sure we were there first on Sunday.
And we filled up the car again. They knew we were bulk buying, because we, of course, had our pile, that they started bringing the totes of plush were coming to me to dump out first so that I could get to look at it, and all the clothing went to him for him to look at first. So that was really cool. It was just so overwhelming.
It was a lot of stuff. And what's funny is that next day, that Sunday, we had seen some of the same people that were there, including Mickey Ski Slope was there. She was there buying again. We see them often. We went to the garage sale a couple weeks ago. So they knew that they had gotten a good deal the day before, so they made sure they came back also. But we weren't looking for the same stuff. She was looking for higher-end Disney collectibles, snow globes, which I would never sell a snow globe, and then stuff like that, the limited lunch pails and stuff like that, where we were looking strictly for clothing and the plush because they don't break. They're easy to ship, they're easy to take pictures of, and when we tell you what we had found, it all became worthwhile.
Yeah. And we did sell most of it before October, November, so
We did.
This is the end of it. The highlight is a shirt that John actually kept hair himself for a while and wore it.
Mm-hmm.
Never got the response that he wanted. No one ever commented on it, which I think is really funny.
Which just kills me because I wore it to multiple flea markets. I wore it in public. I knew it was an expensive shirt. I went in multiple vintage vendors at the flea market. They had tons of clothing. And I would get comments on, oh, your shoes are bright, or, what are you looking for today, as opposed to the very expensive Mickey shirt that I was wearing. So I listed it on eBay. I had seen a couple others. There were only 2 listed in that time period. Both either sold off eBay or were gone from eBay. But I decided to list it. Because if nothing else, if it doesn't sell, I'll just keep wearing it occasionally, making sure I don't get stains or anything on it. And I listed it for $1,000.11. All of our listings end in 11 cents. That's just something out of the norm for us. We do that to make it kind of stand out. Some people do 97, some people do 53, some people just do crazy numbers on each and every listing. We always do 11 cents. So I threw it up for $1,000.11. Maybe I'll insert a picture here. It is the Mickey Runaway Brain. It is the official 2-sided one on the front and the back. It had the Disney tag, and within minutes it had 100 views, it had 20 watchers, which I had turned on best offer. I had thought to myself, one had sold for $325, and it had a hole in the armpit and it had a stain on the back. So I was going to accept $500 because mine was in better shape. It was better size.
It was in great shape.
And then
still glowed in the dark.
It glowed in the dark, which was super cool. Which I also took pictures of that. Because if something does something unique, you should always show the buyers that. So it sold within 2 hours for full price. I believe it sold to a forwarding company that's going to send it to, I would assume, Japan or Korea. They love their vintage. They love Disney. And when you put those two things together, they're willing to pay quite a bit for it. I'm sure it'll end up on a site somewhere else for $1,500 to $2,000 because that's what the other ones were listed for, but I couldn't find any actual solds. But I am, to say the least, thrilled with the $1,000 t-shirt sale. After all was said and done, we spent, let's see, you said $146, give or take. We kept some stuff, but we probably ended up getting 500 items with all the plush, all the clothing.
Yeah.
So we're talking quarter to 50 cents an item. And with that, you just kind of have to keep digging. And we kept digging. And the shirt, funny enough, we had already made our pile. We had our pile, our Sunday pile. We were getting ready. They brought out like 2 more bags. I walked over there. I was like, let me look one more time. And right off the bat, I found the Runaway Mickey. I found a vintage Lion King. I found a vintage Batman Forever shirt. And there was one other. There were 4 like right off the bat on the top of the pile. So of course I dug through it. I didn't find anything else. But those 4 shirts were ones that we could have missed if I just wouldn't have walked around one more time.
We still feel like we may have missed stuff. Like,
oh, yeah,
when
for
it
sure.
all is said and done.
Well, when you show up at 11:30, 12 o'clock on the first day,
like, what did you miss initially?
What did all the other people see? Or what did other people buy? And we did really well, but, that's what? FOMO? Isn't that fear of missing out? What did we miss out on? But by that time, we gained maybe better stuff because we were there later in the day and they had really started to ramp up their bringing out. We think it was probably grandma and maybe daughter and granddaughter were having the sale. She loved Disney. There's no doubt about it. The greatest thing in the world to her was Disney.
She bought everything.
She bought everything. Everything. And she bought a lot of it.
Yes. We only tracked the Disney sale for 89 items. We had a gross sale of $3,928.37. That's when we stopped because $146 into almost 4,000.
Yeah, and then we sold some stuff locally, which is probably not included in this.
It is not.
We moved off the rest of the. We got to the point where the plush, we just didn't want to sell it.
It was just so.
We didn't want to list it anymore. We had other things we wanted to list, so we moved it off. The person was very pleased with the purchase.
Oh yeah.
And then telling me how rare some of these were, which we'd already done our research. We'd already sold the really rare ones, but I'm glad he was happy with it.
Yeah, we have a low light sale from that over the last 2 months too. Little PVC, Epcot, Space, Mickey, and Pluto. The pair of them sold for $9.10.
And we're going to pause because the video is about to end. So needless to say, Disney Sale was one of our best, if not our best, garage sale pickup. I would really have to think hard about anything better, especially the volume of the items that we got and how fast they were selling. I mean, we were selling t-shirts multiple times a day, and it was really fun.
There's a lot of crop tops too.
A lot of crop tops.
Point that out.
I think it's weird that crop tops are kind of a thing. We don't get a lot of crop top wearing in the middle of Oklahoma, but a lot of this stuff went to Florida and California. I'm sure there's plenty of people that are rocking them at the parks.
Okay.
One
last lot
that we're going to talk about. We still have a lot of it listed. We made a post about it on our Instagram. Follow us on Instagram. We don't do a lot on it, but when we do, it's pretty noteworthy.
We're trying to be better about posting more of our day-to-day finds and listings.
We went to one of our favorite places to eat, which next door happens to be a video game store. A video game store that I used to work for. I worked there for about 15 years, needless to say. So I still visit it occasionally. We went in. They had quite a bit of rare cartridge games. They had told me that a lot of the stuff had already sold. Somebody had came in earlier that week and bought everything. But I saw a long box of like what would have been for cards. It had manuals inside of it. I asked if I could see the manuals. Typically, when I would have worked there, I would have looked each one of them up and priced them individually. The new manager priced them all as a flat $4, no matter what it was, if it was Madden 96 or if it was some of the better stuff, like a game called Demon's Crest, which is super valuable. So we went through it. I went through it multiple times, but the first time I went through and I grabbed all the obvious ones that you would grab, and then the next time I went back and we took our time and kind of looked up some of the odder titles to see if they were, and they were in really good shape. The manuals are really clean. They weren't, touched by a 6-year-old. They weren't written in. They weren't licked on. They don't have Cheeto dust from 30 years ago. They're in very, very good shape, which kind of makes me sad because I wonder what the boxes and the cartridges look like. But he said that most of the boxes didn't come in with the matching game, so that's why they kept everything separate. So we ended up spending $65 on manuals. We bought 15. I'm not sure if this includes the second trip I made in.
It does not. I didn't see that receipt.
I came in a couple days later and bought 3 more that I had remembered and I had done some more research on. So far we've only sold 5. I'm totally fine with that. These are very high-end conditioned manuals. This isn't manuals for the everyday player, everyday collector. These are high-end, someone that's wanting to match with a really high-end box and really make the product a lot better. So we've only sold 5. We paid $65, but we've sold the 5, and a lot of them have gone international, which I think is interesting. We've sold the 5 for about $300, so it's $296.29. We do have some really rare ones left. After all said and done, the retail I had put on them, I think was just shy of 1,200. And I don't remember if that included the additional 3 I bought or if that was just the initial 15. But $1,200 for a bunch of manuals that you pay $65 for. They can take as long as they want. I'm in no rush. Some people are all about, what they say, the fast nickel and the slow dime. I like to have both. I want to have some nickels and some dimes. The faster stuff sells, that's great, but I also like to have some on the backside that takes time, that we can milk over the time, especially during winter.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. In the fall, we like to stock up.
I feel like you're just letting me ramble.
No, you're
just talking.
I don't know these games. He went through, and I just stood there
and
watching.
It blew my mind because I worked there.
They were only $4 each.
I know their process, and it just really hurts my head sometimes, the things they do. We had also bought a Super Nintendo game there that was labeled incorrectly. Unfortunately, it didn't fall between October and November, but sometimes local stores do make mistakes. I've called them out on mistakes before and said, hey, that one's priced wrong, you want to fix that, you've got it on the wrong thing. But then I've also taken advantage of that mistake, and sometimes you have to. Sometimes.
For sure. I think that's all we have today for our Inside the Cellar Studio. We will be back next week with another video, and we'll try to do it weekly where we can keep up with the sales. You guys will probably see a lot more lowlights than you will highlights, especially going in the winter, unless we get these Legos taken care of.
And we're not going to do, we're not really doing these as like what sold. We're not going to do us walking around the garage picking stuff and showing you what sold every day. At least not up front. If you could see around the garage, it looks like a hurricane went off. I am not super organized right now. There is no way I would hold a camera to my face, walking and talking like some of the other sellers do on eBay/YouTube. But maybe we'll get there eventually. We like this. It's more intimate. It lets you know who we are and our wins and our losses, I guess.
Yeah. We do have 2 super full shelves of winter back stock to list.
Unprocessed death pile. That's how we do it. We've done it this way for multiple years, and we'll probably continue to do it that way.
It works for us.
Yep.
It works for us. So thank you guys for tuning in. We will see you guys next week.
Awesome. Thank you.
I look like a ghost.